has to do with a ruling coming in this morning from the United States Supreme Court on gender treatments. And we are standing by to try to get you some additional information. It was a very controversial case right from the start. It comes out of the state of Tennessee, and we are going to let you know the very latest on that coming up. At the same time, we have a story that basically we're describing as murder in a small town. There, for those of you who are watching, this is Fox 10 Talks. I'm Ron Hoon. Syleste Rodriguez will be joining in the next couple of minutes. But there's just a quiet and a peaceful, beautiful little couple of communities up in northern Arizona called Snowflake and Taylor. And there was just a shocking story that developed there over the weekend. It was a call that went out. They did a welfare check, the small police department there, and they went to the home of a really well-known couple in that community. They found them both gunned down. And so as the community deals with the shock, we are trying to sort through the story and bring you some of the latest information as it continues to come in this morning from that area around Snowflake and Taylor. And as we like to do frequently right at the beginning of the show, if you grab that QR code, you can have your opinion known with us because speed cameras might be coming back, and red light cameras too, to the streets of one of America's largest cities. They have not been there for several years. They were controversial. Some people claim they were just a kind of a money-making operation. And others said, no, it's all about public safety. But let me just remind you where we stand right now. 52% of you are saying, no cameras, just let the police do their job. When you rely on cameras, you're not having that important police interaction with a red light runner or with a speeder, a chance for police to have more of an interaction with drivers of various vehicles in our huge metro area here. 36%, though, are saying, bring them on. I'm all for those cameras. Put them up. 11% say yes to red light cams only. There are too many red light runners. Only 1% say yes to speed cams only, saying it might slow people down. But let's get you the very latest out of the United States Supreme Court as this story unfolds, where the ruling came down just earlier this morning when it comes to transgender care and specifically gender treatments for children and teens under the age of 18. So the justices came in with a ruling 6-3. The case came in from the state of Tennessee. And basically, it protects from any future legal challenges the efforts by the president and his supporters within, not just within the Republican Party, but a number of conservative-leaning states across the country who had said that they had expressed some concerns about treatments that in some cases could be irreversible for the youth of America. And so they have more than 50% of our states. Let me look into this. 26 states now have laws similar to the one in Tennessee, and the decision comes with a range of other federal and state efforts to put some protections in place for younger kids, younger teens, from making decisions that might be irreversible when they're 10 or 12 or 14 or 16 years old. So the Supreme Court backs the state of Tennessee and many other states that have similar laws on the books. We're checking in with our sources with Fox to see if we can maybe get a report on this as the morning goes on. But we have plenty to talk about when it comes to that particular case. Matter of fact, just for a little bit more background regarding all of this, let me see if I can bring you just a little bit of additional information. Some of the just doing some research on some of what we're talking about here, there are medications that are gonadotropin releasing hormone agents that can halt puberty, the natural unfolding of puberty in the body. There are gender hormone treatments, estrogen, testosterone, that can develop characteristics that might be opposite of what you were born with, and it is considered partially reversible. And then, of course, there are the questions about surgeries, everything from chest and top surgeries, meaning mastectomies, to surgery on the actual genitals. So we're going to see, by the way, my understanding is that those are fairly rare, but I'm not quite sure what the numbers look like on that. So Syleste joins as well. Syleste, we have that case that's coming in. We also this morning have, we just want to share it. People have probably seen it on TV locally, but for our worldwide audience, if you haven't seen the rescue efforts that were underway up in one of the most beautiful canyons, I think not just in Arizona, but anywhere in the U.S., there's a place called the Edge of the World, and you feel like it when you're on top. And there was a camper who late one night apparently wandered away from the campsite, and apparently fell down into the canyon.
Well, and her family was searching for her.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Her name is Janelle Banda. Well, they located her, and we cannot figure out how you could fall down into that canyon and live. But they found her down there, and she was dehydrated, and I think she had some minor scrapes and scratches, that kind of thing. But watch what the great folks at the Pinal County Sheriff's Office did. Let's see. I'm going to roll this right now. You're going to be able to watch and listen as the rescue effort happens. Ready? Here we go. Okay, so you see it here. Part of the reason I want, sometimes on TV when the video cuts out, you don't get a chance to see the wide view, as we would call it. Take a look. So there's the rescuer, and there's Janelle, and they've got her up on the skids, as they call them. But just watch as the camera starts to widen out from the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. Well, we kind of cut out of it there anyway, but you got a glimpse at this incredible canyon. I think people have seen Oak Creek Canyon itself, but this is just kind of over the hill, if you ever wondered what's over into that next canyon. It is stunningly beautiful. And there it is one more time.
So let me read a little bit of background for many of you who've never been here. It is a beautiful part of Arizona. This is coming from, there's an adventure blogger out there who hikes a lot of these canyons, and she said the Edge of the World is a beautiful cliffside location in the middle of the wilderness on the northwest side of Sedona. And there's limestone cliffs that you can see here in this image, panoramic vistas, cool rock formations. You can see Bell Rock and Cathedral Rock and all those gorgeous formations.
Yeah, there we go.
But there's Janelle, and I think that we need to also give a big kind of thank you or round of applause or just an appreciation, because this is in Coconino County, but you had a partnership with a lot of these different agencies. Pinal County, that's it really in southern Arizona. Pinal County, Coconino County, and of course you had some of the local authorities there in Sedona and in Flagstaff who are really helping with these efforts. And it goes to show you, and you bring up a good point, Ron, that it's hard to imagine when someone falls from this type of a cliff or a situation.
Yeah.
We don't know yet the extent of her injuries. We don't know, entirely how she was found. We know she was found by somebody who was rappelling. We don't know if it was a rescuer or something like that. But it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it seems almost superhuman.
It does.
That you could fall down into that canyon and survive. Look at that view from right at the top. But I will just say it does make me want to go explore that part of the state. But, boy, you've got to be especially cautious.
Oh, yes.
By the way, there was another story that we wanted to follow up on, and it has to do with the shock in the community of Snowflake and Taylor. I love both of those towns,
yeah.
They're more historic, older towns, quiet.
Yes.
I would bet you they've had entire years where you don't have a murder case.
Yeah.
But now they're dealing with one, and I think the community is in shock. And here's a little bit about, people have been speaking out about this couple that was pretty well known in the community. Troy and Cynthia Templeton found dead from gunshot wounds as police responded to their home. This was just on Sunday, and the story's now just picking up steam. But they volunteered with the Rangers in Show Low, and here's a little bit about what they were saying regarding the way this couple just wanted to help out in the community.
They helped us on lots of occasions, as well as all the other Rangers, and just a huge loss for the community. Many people know them and for their dedicated free service to the community.
What an amazing story this is. It's heartbreaking and devastating for this community. Many of these volunteer rangers, they help in a lot of campsites in remote parts of Arizona. Snowflake is a smaller community up in our higher elevations. And one of the things, Ron, that we did report this morning was that their daughter, we don't know how old their daughter was, but the daughter was home when this happened. The daughter's unharmed. But it is a heartbreaking story, and they volunteer for this job. They love their community, they love the area around it, and they're giving their life for it at this point.
Now, they do say that they do have a person of interest in the case.
Yes.
And so as a result, you can imagine there's some great detective work going on there because, again, such a quiet, peaceful, beautiful community. It's not even an incorporated town. You have Snowflake and Taylor, and they've kind of combined. But in the middle, there's a little area known as Belly Button.
Okay.
Belly Button, Arizona. And it was just, it's such a quiet community.
Yes.
And they're just dealing with the shock. All right, we have a break coming up here. So what we're going to do, I want to encourage everybody to stand by. We have a chance coming up after a quick 2-minute break to talk with Shannon Bream of Fox News Sunday.
She's so amazing.
She's going to be joining us exclusively here on our streaming show in about 2 minutes' time as we get a chance to talk about this Supreme Court ruling that just came down.
Yes.
Of course, as you know, she was our Supreme Court reporter on scene there in Washington. So that's all coming up, but we also have the mystery cam. Don't forget about that as we stand by for Shannon. Again, 2 quick minutes away. We'll check in with her. If you think you have any idea where that really lovely looking town is, join the chat.
It is lovely.
We'll be right back. Just give me the high sign when she's done. Testing. Shannon, hi, it's Ron. Can you hear me? Testing. Yeah, it's a quarter after. We are live on our streaming show here in Phoenix, and I think we're about 60 seconds away from chatting with Shannon Bream of Fox News Sunday. In a minute, we're going to have a chance to talk with her. Syleste, while we wait to connect with Shannon, maybe you could go ahead and tell us what kind of guesses we were getting on our mystery cam. You guys just give me a high sign when Shannon. Hey, Shannon, can you hear me yet? It's Ron out in Phoenix. Okay, we're standing by.
All right.
Anyway, what do you got?
All right, this is your mystery camera.
Yes.
And we have B. Miguel with Wyoming. Thank you to everybody who's shared. And by the way, if you're new to the chat, please chime in and let us know, where you're watching from and how you found us. And we love this community. And this is kind of a big deal for us. So we have Missouri, Linda Monterth, and Oklahoma, Sherry, Nevada Pop.
I always listen to Linda. She's smart. Hey, Shannon, it's Ron and Syleste out in Phoenix. We are just trying to establish our communication link.
Yes.
We have the ability to do that. I don't think she can hear us quite yet, but you guys just let me know when we're ready to go to that. But again, it's a streaming show, so we just wing it until we get it all put together.
Jen's wall goes, we can hear ya. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yeah,
yes. So we have an Oregon from Louis Gonzalez, Ohio from, here's Johnny.
Yeah.
Hey, Shannon, can you hear us okay? Good morning, Shannon.
Yeah, we got a whole team of engineers and producers working on this, but I think once Shannon hears us, she'll give us a thumbs up. So you guys just let us know. We are working on that, establishing that link. But Syleste, since we've got about another 30 seconds, what do you think?
We have a few Ohios, a few Oregons, and I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with Alabama.
I'm going to go with Ohio. I like some of these guesses.
You like the Ohio.
And
okay.
here comes the answer.
Ohio. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, baby.
Are you kidding me?
That was a lucky thing.
Okay, let's go back to
that's rare that it happened. So I wonder if this is there on the campus.
Gosh, the campus is like a quarter of that whole town.
Yes. Okay, so we do have Shannon on the phone now, apparently.
I love it.
Thank you to all you who guessed, by the way.
Shannon, I understand that you can hear us now. It's Ron and Syleste out here in Phoenix, and we are really glad that you have a chance to join us. Good morning. Okay. Give me a 1, 2, 3 test on your microphone, and I think we're going to be all set. Oh, there we go. I got you.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Shannon, so the Supreme Court comes down with this ruling today. This is I say this all the time to our viewers. We're so fortunate to have you. You're so plugged into Washington. You know all the movers in town, but you've covered the Supreme Court for years. Was this ruling a surprise on gender treatments coming out of Tennessee?
I honestly...
Go ahead, Shannon. Oh, hang on. Just 1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
The only thing that was a surprise to me was the timing, because next week is that final week of the Supreme Court, that last stretch down to the finish line for the end of the term, and it's such a big case. We thought we'd get it next week, so it's kind of snuck up on us a little bit this week. But reading through the reasoning and having sat through the arguments, I'm not surprised by where the justices landed. And it's good news for Tennessee lawmakers and those who support what they've done there in Tennessee, but also a couple of dozen other states which have done very similar things. They're looking to this ruling and saying it will support and protect what they've passed in their states as well. Plenty of reaction from the other side who says this is really harmful for families and young people who are going through this trends, gender dysphoria and that kind of thing. So it's a heated issue.
So how does this affect, Shannon? You mentioned some of the younger people. Let's say they're going in the middle of the process. How does it affect those families, you think? Any insight you can offer?
Well, it sounded like what happened with this case as it bubbled up, there were young families, young people and families who decided to challenge this law after it was passed, but before it was implemented, and said, hey, our young people are going to be part of this. They're going to want to try the hormone blockers or therapy, or it's already been prescribed, that kind of thing. So they tried to challenge the law before it ever went into effect. And so what the court is now saying is that listen, Tennessee has the right to ban these treatments for younger people. And so they're just not going to be available in Tennessee. And you've heard some families and advocacy groups who say, you know, maybe young people are going to start traveling to other states. Maybe families will move to other states. It feels like one of those things that makes the red states red or the blue states blue, or it's just one of those issues where some states say we're sort of a sanctuary for young people that are going through a transition or interested in that and their families, and others saying we think it's harmful to young people, and so under our state law, you won't have these things to be accessible.
Now, Shannon, in terms of following the arguments that were made in front of the court, we understand the part of the argument that, hey, you know, if you're convinced that and maybe you're in the older teen group, you're not, it's pretty tough to know, you know, I try to think about what I was like when I was 10 or 11 or 12. You know, I had no idea about anything in life. Kind of hard to make decisions that are irreversible. But in terms of the arguments that were being made, if you could boil them down in a nutshell on both sides, you know, so our viewers who weren't in court that day listening to them, what was the gist on both sides?
So what Tennessee has argued is that they have, as a government entity, an interest in protecting the health and welfare of young people in their state. This law was passed by legislators there who said, we think that in protecting them is to say, as a young person, as a minor in our state, we don't think you're ready to make this lifelong decision. It's not good for you. What they cited and what came up a lot in the arguments too was looking to other countries. The justices were very interested in this: Finland, Sweden, Norway, England, where there's been some pushback, where researchers there have said, no, we find some problems. We have real concerns about the lasting harm to young people who make these decisions. So that was a big part of the conversation. On the other side, you have these families and young people who say, this is the way to treat our child. This is how medically and from a mental health perspective, we feel best to treat this gender dysphoria that these children are going through. And if they don't have an opportunity to get these blockers now, they may proceed to a different stage of puberty where it won't be as easy to reverse or block some of these developments.
You know, some of the information, I believe, 26 other states have similar laws as this one in Tennessee. Does this now kind of prepare those states for, you know, some weaponry here to kind of uphold the laws that they've passed?
Yeah, and we're starting to hear from the attorney generals in these different states, from these other states, as you mentioned, more than 24 other states that have similar laws, to say the Supreme Court is the law of the land. They have said that this is better handled by legislatures, by the people and their elected officials, and they've given a sign-off saying that this law in Tennessee passes constitutional muster. So those other states are celebrating as well. Meanwhile, we are hearing from, one of the first releases I got was from California, and officials there saying, we will remain open. We will not restrict any of these rights. If you have trouble in your state, then you're welcome in California.
Okay, now, Shannon, were they able to bring up the argument of, I know there have been a lot of studies on other countries where they maybe were earlier in delving into some of this, but then pulled back, is my understanding, in a lot of different states. Were they able to bring up things like that or no?
Yeah, that did come up, and it was one of the things that Justice Alito kept going back to during the oral arguments. Now remember, this is back in December. President Biden was still the president then, and so the U.S. government's official, the federal government's position was against Tennessee's law. Obviously, I think the Trump administration would take a different position, but it was argued under that context. And so all the representations from support of Tennessee's law were in conflict with what the federal government here was trying to do. But Justice Alito kept going back to those studies and saying, listen, these are nations that we often think are progressive when it comes to medical care or on the leading edge of a number of these big issues. They've said, whoa, we're putting on the brakes for some of this stuff with respect to young people. It came up again, Justice Thomas too, and others talked about there are adults who have detransitioned, even older teenagers or people who have changed their minds about some of these treatments. So they considered all of those things. And there is a back and forth in this 118th page opinion about the other countries and what they've done. And that seemed to have a real influence on the majority of justices in the 6-3 decision.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Celeste, we need to have a segment and called it our weekly chat with Shannon.
I feel like 100%
I love
smarter
it.
just listening to her.
Well, you got a lot of fans on your show out here on Fox News Sunday. That's for sure. We chat about it every week.
We appreciate
you,
you,
guys.
Shannon.
Yeah, we really do. Thanks
It's
for
a joy
your...
to visit with you. Have a great, well, I think it's Wednesday. I've been calling it Thursday all day. I'm pretty sure it's still Wednesday. But
I'm
Ron,
with
I'll see
you.
you on Friday.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go with Thursday.
Good. Yeah. Can't wait for her show this weekend, that's for sure.
It's gonna be
Shannon
great.
Bream, host of Fox News Sunday, and longtime correspondent.
Wow, what great information that was. And some of you in the chat box asked a couple of questions, and she answered those in some of her thoughts. What is the age group it mostly affected by this? It was minors, affecting minors. And do they expect similar laws to be passed in other states? Well, right now there's 26 other states, as she mentioned, that already have similar laws. So now, of course, they have, could the possibility of now holding those laws because the Supreme Court passing this decision.
Okay, we have another break coming up here in about 90 seconds, and then we are going to be talking with those of you who are daily watchers of Fox 10 Talks. May remember we had an aviation expert on last week. There's been a lot of new information
Yes.
that's been coming in regarding the Dreamliner that crashed overseas, and we're going to check in with him over the next, right after the break. But just real quick, Celeste, before we go to break, this is fascinating to me. The lawyers for Brian Kohberger think they have an argument here. I'm not going to say they want to stop the trial right in its tracks, but they want to slow it way down, and they're going to go into court today. It may actually be happening as we speak up there in Idaho. He, of course, is the one accused in the killings of those those 4 students at the University of Idaho in Moscow, Idaho, back around Thanksgiving of 2022. And here's what they're saying. They said that there was a TV show that revealed new and previously unreleased information about the case. And you can imagine that his lawyers were shocked when that happened. So they're going before the judge now saying, not stop it, not throw out the case. I don't believe that's their argument, but we better slow this way down in terms of trying to try the case, figuring out what we can and can't use in court, and regarding, the selection of a jury.
Well, the jury, you bring up a good point, right? Because you have to find people that would not be swayed by something that they've already seen in the news or read online or anything like that. So if some of that information was released, that probably would affect. And then you think, okay, do they have to move the case to a different county or a different city? Because possibly the community, maybe everybody knows about what's going on. There's a lot of small towns there in Idaho.
Yes, true.
And everybody talks.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about Idaho is it's a kind of a split TV market. So you have Boise, which is a pretty good sized market.
Ron Boise.
Oh, Boise. Then you have smaller markets like Pocatello and Idaho Falls.
Yes.
All that covers the southern half. The whole northern half of the state, they get their news out of Washington.
Yes.
Out of Spokane.
They're so close.
And so who knows, who's collecting what kind of information. But we'll stay on that case for sure. We, by the way, will be back after 2 minutes. Syleste. It's 10:30. Thank you for watching our streaming show, Fox 10 Talks. You can catch us every day on YouTube, and we love that because then you can join the conversation. Matter of fact, the interview that we've got coming up for you here in about 20 seconds, if you have questions for our aviation expert who will be joining us, John Selagoy, that would be just great. But if you're not totally up to speed, the investigation has continued over in India after the crash of the 787 Dreamliner, the Air India flight. It was just seconds after lifting off that it crashed back in. It just never seemed like it was able to get airborne, get the thrust that it needed to really get all the way off the ground. And so John joins us this morning, and let me just pull up here on my great big board. I'm just trying to locate where our Zoom bugs are.
When you look at all the people, Ron, my goodness, the rescue efforts to pull these people out of the wreckage.
And here's John now. So, John, my understanding is some pictures from the crash scene indicate that perhaps the flaps had been down, raising questions about that original theory that the pilot forgot to put them in that position. And perhaps that theory's got to be replaced by something else. And you've been digging into it over the last few days. What do you think now?
Hi, Celeste. Thanks for having me. Like most of the aviation mishaps, we always get that coined phrase, let's wait for the flight data recorder or the cockpit voice recorder. Additionally, now we've had another piece of video come out that shows the ram air turbine deploying, which wasn't noticed, I think, on the first set of videos. I believe there was a gentleman in an apartment building.
When you take a look at some of the information that's coming in, what are your thoughts on where the investigation goes from now, and the information that we'll get from those black boxes?
Celeste, it looks like they're focusing now on a dual engine power loss. We know the engines were operating in order for the aircraft to get airborne. We talked last week about possibly being a bad configuration with respect to the landing gear and the flaps. That ram air turbine, it's like a small propeller, deploys when both engines fail, which tells us there was definitely an engine malfunction that they need to look into now.
Okay, so my husband is a trained pilot, and I know that there's a certain number of things you go through in your pre-flight. Is that something that would have passed in pre-flight? They do make sure they check all those things, correct? Or, I mean, when you talk about a malfunction, that's a pretty scary ordeal.
Yeah, and what could have caused it?
Right.
If there was a malfunction.
The Boeing, all modern aircraft, believe it or not, are still checklist driven for the pilots to get through their pre-flight and in-flight activities. The issue we have here is the time to respond. And if you can imagine, when all of us fly and you're on that takeoff roll, you get that acceleration thrill. They really only had seconds to respond. Now, if we have a dual engine malfunction, and I'd like to talk about that a bit more, they really have to look forward. And you can see the pilot is pulling the nose back. But now we know that ram air turbine deploys, and that's intended in a dual engine failure at altitude. It provides essential electrical power to the cockpit so the pilots can operate the flight controls. Unfortunately, on takeoff roll, this is the absolute worst case scenario, losing both engines. And as we talked last week, full of fuel, full of passengers in a very, very hot climate where they were taking off from in India.
So, John, the one surviving passenger, that interview I was fascinated with from his hospital bed, where he said he heard a loud bang. I think he said about 30 minutes or 30 seconds into takeoff. What might have, and I'm sure you've thought about that, what could have been the possible source of a loud bang? Because it does seem like that was about the point where the plane started to gradually drift lower.
So, Ron, there's a couple of paths we have to look at, airflow and fuel. So what he possibly could have been hearing is a engine compressor stall. And believe it or not, when a turbofan engine, and by the way, these are General Electric turbofan engines, that are in service all over the world. When they have a compressor stall, that means that the air flowing through the engine itself is disrupted somehow, and it creates a large bang. It's like a shotgun sound bang. It's very audible. What's odd though is how does it happen to both engines? Because those engines are operating independently, and the reason there's two engines is in case one fails, now you have the other engine to back up the failed engine. It's possible that there was a compressor failure on one of the engines. It's also possible, and in my research, it looks like they're looking very hard at fuel contamination, because these engines don't just stop running. Once these turbofan engines are running and online, it takes quite a bit for them to shut off. And as you know, we don't see this very often in our lifetime, where engines just fail and shut off on passenger jets. Very, very rare situation we're looking at here. So again, I suspect fuel, but if that gentleman heard a banging sound, it very well could have been a compressor stall.
Wow, we do have several questions in the chat here on YouTube where we're streaming. We just have a quick moment to ask one, and this is it from Ethan D. He says, has Boeing said anything else since the incident? Has the company released any information? I'm sure they have spokespeople who are on scene, investigators kind of helping with the efforts as well.
Celeste, both Boeing and General Electric have deployed to the crash site and are working with Air India as part of the investigative process, and that's very typical for Boeing. It's called a go team. They have a team that responds to these incidents, and let's finish this by saying our airline industry and our flying is still the safest mode of travel in the world. And I have to throw that piece of confidence. I grew up about 2 miles from the Boeing factories in the Seattle area. It's still a top-notch aircraft, a top-notch product, and we still have to maintain our confidence in the airline industry.
I got to ask John, are you talking about the Everett facility, or are you talking about Payne Field, or all the way down in Renton?
Yeah, all of the above. I grew up in Bellevue, not far from Renton, where the 737 line is, and then my whole family had worked up at the Everett plant.
So Big D, our producer, he is also from Bellevue.
He's a Bellevue
and my husband's
Correct.
from Edmonds. Do you remember your address growing up? Maybe Dave lived in your house.
You don't have to answer that question, John.
We'll call it the Lake Hills area.
There you go. All right, Big D. He may know where Lake Hills is.
There you go. All right. Well, so much for the high school reunions. But, John, you are such a wealth of information. As this story unfolds, we hope we'll be able to keep checking in with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you both. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You as well.
Since you mentioned Dave, let's do it.
Big D.
Now remember yesterday you were complimenting everybody on the lighting. I feel like we need to brighten up again on the Dave cam today. All right, Dave, you've been looking into people reacting to today's poll question. What are you seeing on that?
Yeah, lots of really good comments related to...
Squeeze up to that microphone just a little bit.
Hello.
There
Better?
you go. Oh,
there you go.
Way better.
So lots of really solid comments about the speed cameras. Dr. Gray's Ghost 420 says, these were put in my town and then removed within a year. One thing is they were causing wrecks. All the lights in town had long skid marks where people were locking their brakes up to avoid a ticket and also causing wrecks doing that. Next up, Brian Thiessen 5319 says they should bring them back. I've seen too many people out here speeding, swerving, and zigzagging through traffic. They don't follow the speed limit, driving dangerously. And then finally, this one's great. And very funny username, the Fugly Old Man 7360 says traffic cameras have proven time after time that they become nothing more than a revenue stream for the municipalities that use them. Chicago is a perfect and most current example of this. You haven't been in an area for quite a while, then you get a ticket in the mail. Now you have to go prove your innocence in court, which costs both time and money, even if you beat the ticket, which only happens approximately 15% of the time. In a perfect world, traffic cameras would be a good option, but greed of city, county, and state officials always takes over. My advice, stop it, and stop it now.
Wow.
So fantastic comments. Keep the comments coming. Keep the conversation going, guys.
All right, so let's update you right now because we do have two different sources, and it's fascinating to me because sometimes we get kind of a different reaction. This time around, it looks like the biggest number are people who are highly skeptical about these cameras, just like the last commenter to the fugly old man who said, no, come on. No, well, there are two different arguments. One is the cities are doing it because, okay, maybe of course, everybody wants fewer crashes, but is there a financial incentive? And if there is a financial incentive,
Right.
does that actually enter the minds of those who are the decision makers? If it makes a few extra dollars for the city, does that go into the computation of whether you're going to allow them back on or not?
That is so true.
So right now, 45% in YouTube are saying just let the police do their jobs. They're on the streets. If they see a red light runner or somebody speeding, they pull them over. It's better to be having police interactions than cameras clicking away and automatically the bill goes out in the mail.
Well, do you remember when I think it was Governor Jan Brewer, there was a pilot program, we had these speed cameras on our freeways, if you recall, and they eventually went away, but a lot of people thought, well, what's up with Big Brother? And where are the police, as you mentioned, Ron?
Yeah.
So I think that, and the argument becomes then, when you receive this ticket in the mail, there's a lot of people who don't pay it.
Yeah. Right.
And you have to, it's a court order. Somebody has to physically, human to human.
Right. Then they got to pay a processor.
To come out and do that whole thing.
So let's see how it's looking in our other poll. Almost identical. Hold on. This is the first time I think in quite a while everybody seems to be agreeing that you can grab that QR code to vote in this poll. We call this the QR code poll. 51% say no cameras, let the police do their jobs.
And Ron, do you know what fugly means, by the way?
Go ahead, Celeste.
Okay. According to Oxford Languages Dictionary, it's very ugly or unattractive.
No.
I just wanted to make sure
Correct.
we all were on the same page.
That Mr. Fugly is probably very attractive. As an older gentleman, he says he's the fugly old man.
Well, I don't think he actually created his handle. Maybe it was his wife.
I'm just a little uncomfortable even using the word fugly.
Me too.
If you know what
All right,
I mean.
let's move on.
All right. Anyway, thank you for voting in our poll. And we have so much more to get to here in the last 15 minutes. Celeste, remember when we used to go 30 minutes and we would say, we got to go an hour? Well, now we're like, we got to go 2. We have so much to cover.
Well, Anita and Ty are going to have to squabble over that.
Yeah. All right. We will take a break. We are going to talk more about more of the big stories coming up. Thanks for watching.
Yes.
It's Ron and Celeste on Fox 10 Talks. Hold on. Okay, everybody, welcome back. And we have more new viewers every single day discovering Fox 10 Talks. We have one voter. Thank you, one voter. We have a lot of our regulars. Here's Johnny. It became a regular commentator a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And now we rely on him. How about Bob?
Hey,
Bob Stigler is becoming more of a regular. So we just love all of our commentators. Kodiak 928 says, hi, Celeste. My papa watches your show all day long. He just loves Fox 10.
Thank you. Thank you for hanging with us.
Hey,
I responded to him too. We actually respond to many of you when you chime in. So thank you.
Can I amend that? Celeste response. I'm busy punching buttons over here. Look who we have, everybody. Isabella joins us this morning.
Good morning. Good
And,
to see you.
We sat and visited a little bit this morning, and I said, Isabella, look, it's been so busy, but I know the president spoke earlier this morning, and I'm sure he was asked multiple questions about this growing conflict. Will the U.S. get involved in the war in Iran? So, Isabella, what were you able to find out?
Yeah, well, I listened in on what he was talking about up until we had our show, and he ultimately, was talking about the Iran strikes and if there's going to be an ultimate surrender. I did pull a soundbite for us to listen to, which we will play here shortly, but he did necessarily say he may not, he isn't going to say what he's going to do yet, but basically was calling for that ultimate surrender this morning.
Should we listen to that?
Yeah.
Let's do
Here we
it.
go.
I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction, why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this.
So, I mean, unconditional surrender, he posted, and then the, quote, supreme leader said, we will never surrender. And so, but the Israelis are saying, look, we have them kind of right where we want them militarily speaking. We have total control of the skies of Tehran.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. As you watched, were there some other topics or any other questions and answers that people were asking, or was it all focused on Iran?
For the section I listened to, because I was getting us ready for this Fox 10 Talks, it mainly was about, what that next step is. Is the U.S. going to get involved? Just the nuclear stuff of it. There was quite a lot of talk about that. Yeah. Just
there's that
take a look
bunker
at that
buster.
video.
Now, I had heard one military analyst say one bunker busting bomb is not going to be enough to destroy the centrifuges that they held deep into the mountain, that each bunker buster, which has to be delivered with a payload off of a B-2, the stealth bomber, that one of them could penetrate a few hundred feet, but that you're going to have to drop multiple, and I don't know if that's like a concurrent one, then give it a minute later, a second one, or do they come back with a whole nother sortie an hour later?
Right.
But to get deep into that mountain, they're going to have to drop multiple bunker busters.
Yeah.
Would make sense, I guess.
I mean, we know that the conflict's going on for the 6th day now, it says. And just Trump was saying if they are going to join Israel's strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. But I just know that the nuclear site was a big topic this morning in his discussions.
Pretty frightening.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like to me, I don't know, I'm trying to read between the lines, but, you hear him say, I told him, why didn't you take the deal? It almost sounds like he has made up his mind, to engage, because we're the ones that have the bunker busters.
And he's asking people to evacuate the country.
Yeah.
He's saying you should leave. By the way, Jens Wall says you're wearing her favorite color, and you
let's
look
go back
beautiful,
to that.
Isabella.
Look at
Thank you,
that.
Jens Wall.
What color would you describe that as? I would call it purple, but I know I'm like not good with colors. What is it?
Magenta
Thank
fuchsia.
you. It's magenta.
It's
Very
like
nice.
a plum.
Oh, it is a plum. Even I can figure that out. Hey, Isabella, we only have about 6 minutes left. Can you hang with us?
I
for a
would
few
love
more
to.
too?
I would love to.
Let's talk about some of these other stories, Celeste, because for the first time ever, more people are now watching TV via streaming than any other way, meaning satellite.
Yep.
Meaning hold on. I guess the streaming service is like a YouTube TV.
Uh-huh.
That's like a streaming service.
Yeah, that would be streaming.
Yeah. Rabbit ears.
Rabbit ears, yeah.
Some people still watch free TV if
They
you live close
do.
enough to our tower. But anyway, that's not a shocker. Streaming shows accounted for 44.8% of all viewership last month, while broadcast and cable viewing, cable, of course, we forgot that, made up 44%. And YouTube, by the way, is the #1 streaming platform. So is it any surprise to you that we're right here on YouTube, and that's how people are finding us all over the world?
Yeah, I don't think it's any surprise. You know, I think
Right.
people have been kind of trending towards streaming for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, and I know this, Isabella comes with her own fans. So does Dave. Whenever we go to
Big Dave.
let's just pop up the Dave cam right now. Just
Let's
see
do
what
it.
There he is.
Woo!
Look at that. It's just a random Dave cam shot.
Surprise!
In a random effort to try to get more viewers. So there you go.
And it's working.
Anyway, streaming is the future, and thank you all for joining us here. So they did a survey recently, and they asked the following question. What do you think life will be like in the year 2065? So we're talking about 40 years
Wow.
from now. It's from Talker Research.
Mm-hmm.
And nearly half said this is so like Gen Z, when you reach retirement, that kind of a thing.
Yes.
Here are a few of the options, and here are some of what they said. 25% said they don't think they'll ever be able to afford to buy a house. That's sad. That's ridiculous.
It is.
Is
Because
what
that
it
for
is.
a lot of years is the American dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Right? And so, because look, we're stuck at 7.25% interest
Yeah.
rates. That's outrageous.
It is.
Yeah.
That might not change until the current guy is out at the
Yeah.
Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
I mean, inflation's at 2%. What
Well,
more do you need?
Well, they keep building these homes, and Isabel, I'm sure you've seen them driving around town. They build these homes, and you think, oh, they're for sale, but
Yeah.
they're not. The entire neighborhood is for lease.
Yeah.
You know, they're building up by the
Right.
Taiwanese semiconductor plant. There's a lot of those
Yes.
big communities they're building, but
Sure.
none of them are to
Well,
purchase.
now I will just say, because I've got family members that are buying out in Apache Junction. Some people
Ooh.
think that's too far away, but there are some huge communities out there. One I think is called Radiance. Another one is called Blossom Rock.
Oh,
Every time I drive
Sounds
out there,
where do you live, Blossom Rock?
Blossom Rock.
Yeah, I
it
like
sounds
that.
like you've got the green thumb, doesn't it? Blossom.
And it
I make
sounds-
rocks blossom.
Wow, you have special powers.
But anyway, the one thing I just want to say, these builders are smart and savvy, and a lot of the home builders, what they're doing now is they're buying down the interest rate.
yes.
And so I'll just say I do know this from following kind of what's been going on in my family. They had an interest rate program. I don't know if it's even on anymore, but this is out in these new communities. You do have to drive a long way to get there, but they had a 1.9% interest rate,
Wow.
followed by a 2.9, and then it locked in at a 3.9.
Wow.
And so the builders, they're big, they're able to do that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And if you're trying to buy a house, somewhere in town and there's not a
Yeah.
builder incentive, you're going to get a 7%, maybe 6 and 7/8 interest rate. And it's really a shame.
And if you don't
Yeah.
have to commute,
Yeah.
if you don't have to commute into the city, then that's it.
The other
Perfect.
thing they talked about was, will AI take over people's jobs? We're worried about it here. Celeste and I are worried about it. I don't know, Isabella, if you're worried about it, but I think they actually, in some of the video that we have, so the robots, now that's fine if they want to come in and clean the house and do the laundry.
Right.
Mhm.
That's perfect,
But
actually.
if it goes much further than that, and you have future TV news anchors,
Oh,
Yeah.
like this lady here. Now, I admit she's very attractive.
Well, she looks drunk, Ron. That's what I don't.
She looks like she doesn't have her battery fully charged.
Thank you.
Uh,
She's
She's not fully
she's
sure.
not fully charged. I think
Okay.
there's a battery issue with her.
Anyway, who knows? Maybe this is her future co-anchor. But they are saying that AI, Amazon just announced yesterday. Now, I don't think that guy's taking
Here
our
she is
job,
again.
but
My goodness, Ron.
I'm just saying that there's pros and cons to every story. So they do think that all currency will be digital. So what about the old dollar bill, right? I don't know, the old
Oh.
George Washington. They think that we'll be in a 4-day work week.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Lil Philosophy says that robot looks strange.
I don't know if I'd want to get my news from her.
Yeah, she very confused.
How about you guys just moving on to our last couple of stories here? Kelsey Grammer once again is going to become a dad, or he's set to become a
How
dad.
young is he again?
He's 70.
Wow.
And he and his wife, Katie, are expecting their 4th baby. So this will be, I believe, his 8th child in all. Did I see that somewhere?
Yeah, because he was on one of the Housewives show with his ex-wife. That's where I really started. I mean, of course, we know him from the Kelsey Grammer, the show.
Yeah.
But he was in that show and they got divorced. And he's had a few kids with her.
Okay.
He was on Housewives.
All right.
One of the ones, I think it was Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
But now he has 4 children with this new wife, huh?
Wow, yeah. This will be baby number 4, so he's still got it. Now, the interesting...
He's got something, Ron.
I'll tell you this much. So when I fly this one particular airline, they have the old reruns of TV shows. I don't think I ever appreciated how fantastic he was in Frasier. Did you guys ever go back and look at the old reruns of Frasier? It's set in Seattle. He's a radio talk show host, which this feels like a radio show.
Yes.
And if you ever need a laugh, just go. I don't know if you go on YouTube or where you find him, but he's amazing.
Yeah.
And the show is great. Yeah.
It's won a lot of big awards on Broadway too.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
I think that's about it. So no, let me just one more thing here. Oh, by the way, it's Megan Maroney. By the way, we're waiting for Anita. Stand by, Anita.
Megan Maroney. She's really hip with the young girls.
Yeah. Well, she left her wedding 2 hours into it because there was a concert. So she and her hubby left and went to. Oh, wait a sec. Hold on one moment. I
Real
have the
quick.
story
Okay,
wrong.
while you're looking at it, Ron, I'm going to
Hurry.
read a couple
Yeah,
comments.
Go fast.
Lil Philosophy said, "Wow, a
Okay.
baby at 70."
Yeah.
And then, B. Miguel says, "I still watch Frasier every day."
Oh, good. So here's the story. Got it wrong. A bride and groom in Ohio left their wedding reception to get to the Megan Maroney concert. That's what it was at Jacobs Pavilion in Cleveland. Celeste, I don't think this is outrageous. By the way, we're about 10 seconds away from Anita arriving, but then we're going to have 10 seconds left to promote her hour on YouTube. But anyway... So anyway, good for that couple. They had tickets to the concert. They had a wedding. They squeezed it all in, Anita.
Good. Sometimes the quicker the better, you know?
Why not?
Yeah. You know,
Look
just
at this,
get it
Anita.
over with.
Look at this. We got an ISO cam on you.
Yeah.
Anita's up
What's an
next
ISO
on
cam?
YouTube. Look.
Hi.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, welcome in, everyone. Ty's on vacation, so we are gals who are gabbing, girls who gab with Irene Snyder. Good morning.
Good morning, Anita.
We've
Thanks for
never
having
had
me.
you on.
No, I've dialed in from being out in the field, but I've never been on here in the studio, so that's cool.
Welcome in.
Thank you.
Fox 10 Talks. And so Ty and I take over at 11 o'clock. We talk about a variety of topics, including news. And we had you out on a really interesting story today. And I said, we need to talk a little bit about this because all of our viewers at home, a lot of them are pet parents. Oh, thanks, Jen Walls. Jen Walls likes the white. I appreciate it, Jen Walls. And Sherry Nevada Pup says hello to both of us. A lot of our viewers at home are huge animal lovers. A lot of them have dogs, and I think they're going to appreciate this next story.
It was a really wonderful story. So we get there, and they were telling us all about it. Blue AZ, by the way.
Blue AZ.
Blue AZ.
This is a nonprofit.
Nonprofit. Well, Blue Cross Blue Shield,
Okay.
Blue AZ. And they were telling me today that the big push for this is obviously we think of heat relief kits. I've covered I don't know how many different
Well, you did one
stories.
yesterday,
We did
right?
One yesterday, yes, exactly. And that was for human beings.
Okay, so
out
what's
there
a
on the
heat
streets.
relief kit for people who may not be familiar?
Sure. So if you're talking about a heat relief kit for, someone out on the streets, a lot of times organizations like the Red Cross or Salvation Army, they'll do some of those things. They'll do these heat relief kits. But a variety of nonprofits do them. They could include things like a visor. They could include sunscreen, a water bottle.
Socks.
Anything. Socks are sometimes in there so people aren't stepping outside. Flip-flops.
Chapsticks.
Chapstick. Things
Waters. Okay.
Basically anything to try and protect someone from the sun during the summer. But this particular one was unique because, like I said, we've covered a lot of those. But this one had a heat relief kit with some of the normal standard things. But then they also had a set of heat relief kits for your pets.
Okay.
So they were big pool here. They also worked with the Arizona Pet Project. They were out there with some pups today. You see a lot of those people who are living out there on the streets experiencing homelessness. A lot of them will have pets with them.
They want the companionship, and a
Exactly.
lot of those people care for their dogs in a manner that would, I don't want to say would surprise people, but they really love their dogs, and they put them
do.
first.
Yeah, and they were telling me today, a lot of these people, that's all they have is their dog or their companion there, and they'll do anything for them. But they can't afford, they can't afford a lot of things for themselves. They can't afford to get something for their dog. So this one was unique. Their heat relief kits for the pets, they're going to be handing out about 500 of them. They included things like some paw protection they'll put on the paws. They had booties, which is really big because the pavement out here can get really hot. Even at 90, 80 degrees outside in the morning, it can get kind of hot for our furry friends. Things like that. They'll have a little water bowl. So just trying to really keep their friends, furry family members, I should say, for a lot of them, safe during the summer months here in Arizona.
Were these kits for anybody, or is it specifically kits that they're going to be passing out?
So they're going to be passing out these heat relief kits. So it was the Arizona Pet Project and then Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue AZ that were out there today. So they said that if anyone wants to help, they can always donate too. They can do more of these kits. But specifically these today were going to be for people who are out there experiencing homelessness for their pets.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Did they say, you mentioned that anyone can put them together. Do they need volunteers? How do people volunteer? How do they make a difference?
So the Arizona Pet Project said, so this was a specific event today that they were doing. They
I'm
also
going to have
had
you move your mic a little closer.
Sure, a little
There-
closer so
yeah,
you can hear
thanks.
me.
Louis
I'm a
Gonzalez
theater
is
kid.
saying
Normally
he
I
can't
talk
hear
too
us.
loudly. So I normally
Me
talk
too,
too loud as a
Irene.
theater kid.
Me too,
Now,
absolutely.
being told to talk louder,
Yeah.
that's a difference for me. But yeah, so this is something that they did specifically for an event today. But they said if anyone wants to drop off anything that could be put in a kit, whether they have some extra dog booties, if they want to go out and buy anything, they can work with the Arizona Pet Project and contact them online. They have, Facebook, Instagram, a lot of ways to contact them.
That's pretty interesting. You've been here for how many years now at Fox 10?
Fox 10 in September, it will be 5 years.
So you've had almost four full
summers, yeah.
summers. And that's something that we do cover a lot of is the heat and how it impacts people and pets. And it's tough out there. It's going to be 115 tomorrow. And that's not saying we don't love the heat and we don't love Arizona.
We love Arizona.
We do love Arizona, but it's tough though. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, if you have your dog, you have a dog, I have a dog, you really have to get them outside early in the morning, late at night. Those people living on the streets, they're out there a lot more often than we are. So definitely have to be very careful.
Charles David is saying, I feel so bad for these folks and their pets. The heat is really unbearable. And, and that's the thing. Again, I mean, sometimes people think that we're complaining about the heat.
Yeah.
We're not complaining about it. We really want to warn people and just emphasize that it's tough out there.
You have
It's
to be
really
safe. You
tough.
have to be smart about it. And then, give the people who maybe can't afford that extra help a little leg up to make sure they stay safe and their pets too.
I know a lot of people who will will drive around with older blankets or towels in their trunks, and then extra water. And when they see people, they'll pass those out, because, you know, my rule of thumb, I have a little Chihuahua who is
Shorty.
Yes, Shorty.
Love Shorty.
And you have Lucy, and Lucy's a bigger pup.
Little bigger than Shorty. She's
Yeah.
about 22 pounds. I wouldn't call her big, but compared to Shorty, she's bigger. Yes.
And Shorty is older, so he doesn't walk around. We don't do any walks anymore. But my rule of thumb was always, I would take my sandal, my flip-flop off, and I would put my foot on the pavement. And if it was too hot for my foot to touch, I was not going to let him walk.
My usually rule, at least what I've been told, is about 10 seconds. You know, if you put your foot down there for 10 seconds, your hand, and if your hand starts to burn up, yeah, your dog can't walk across that.
Have you used the little booties? Do they work?
I have used booties.
You have?
I don't know about the specific brand they had there today. I didn't take a pretty close look at them, but I have these little ones for my dog. I will say it takes a minute to get them used to wearing them.
Yeah, they're funny. Some of the
she will
videos
walk-
are funny.
They're pretty
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, she'll try and
Yeah.
kick them off. But you know what? If you train them to use them, basically what I would do is I'd put like one on at a time, let her walk around the house, then put two, and then kind of work my way up to 4 outside. That's what I did.
Okay.
So
Great organization. Tell us again what it was called.
the Arizona Pet Project, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue AZ.
Okay, we're going
today.
to talk about another animal-related story, and this one has to do with the bird flu. So it was just within the last 2 weeks that Hickman's Family Farm announced that they lost 95% of their chickens to the bird flu. So they had to, unfortunately, put down about 6 million birds were lost. And Hickman says that in the first time in 81 years that the company has been unable to fulfill 100% of customer needs. They're working to find alternative suppliers. The egg producer also had to possibly reduce their workforce by 850 employees. And so they are working to mitigate that, to get the health of their chickens back up. So we are going to welcome Kim.
Hello.
And tell us about the organization that you're with.
So I'm actually not with a specific organization, just a group of animal lovers in Arizona that pretty frequently like to bring attention to just animal welfare and animal rights issues in the valley.
And I mean, we have people who don't eat meat, who don't eat eggs, vegetarians, and people who try to stick up for the rights of animals. We did reach out to Hickman's about the event that you're holding. They were not, they chose not to provide a comment, no problem. You guys are going to hold a vigil out there because you want to bring attention to what?
So we're raising, well, first of all, we want to honor the lives of the animals that were lost. 6 million chickens is like a devastating blow. And no matter how small or disregarded these lives seem to be to the industry, they actually did mean something. These chickens feel pain. They feel fear. They have complex social lives. So it wasn't just, we can't just write that off. 6 million lives lost for beings that were sentient, what we believe are sentient. And then the second reason is just to raise awareness to animal agriculture and some of the practices that they're told are standard practice and they're humane, but when you really take a closer look at it, it's not. It's not what I would call humane.
Yeah, it's tough, I would imagine. I don't know much about their standard practices or the industry, and it's hard to do what they have to do. They have to run a business, and a lot of people eat eggs, and it's tough to also be an animal lover as well. Tell us about it, and if anyone, Charles David says good morning to you. If anyone at home has any questions for Kim and the organization, definitely we're going to be accepting those. But tell us about the vigil, what you're doing, what the hope, what the goal is.
So we are going to be having some speeches. People are going to be giving speeches. We're going to be playing music. We're going to have candlelight. More of like just like a somber environment, just again reflecting on the lives that were lost, the devastating loss of the chicken lives. And the main goal is to really bring awareness. You know, when you're buying these products, you're not just purchasing eggs. You are paying somebody to manage the lives of animals, and they're also managing how they die. You mentioned that you didn't know much about like the standard practices. Well, Hickman's did comment and say that they used USDA approved methods for the depopulation, and those methods include suffocating them with a foam agent. So they fill the barns with foam until the birds suffocate. Another very commonly used method that is the cheaper method is ventilation shutdown. This is the equivalent to an animal dying in a hot car.
Okay.
It's not pain-free. It's not quick. It takes them hours to die purely just by taking away the air to the barns, and they let it heat, and they sometimes add heat as well, but adding heat, taking away the ventilation, I mean, they suffer for hours if
You
they
know,
use this method.
and one of our viewers, Jen Walls, is saying chickens have their own personalities and everything, and that is interesting. People who have farms have them as pets as well. The vigil is at 7 p.m. How many people are you expecting? How many different organizations or people from different organizations are going to be out there?
Right now it's just our small group, giving me about 10 to 15
Okay.
people. Yeah. I think Fox said they were going to bring their cameras out and just raise awareness too.
Have you guys had conversations with Hickmans? Have you ever been able to sit down and talk to them about share your concerns?
No, not yet. Not as of yet. It really, the issue with the factory farm here in Arizona really came to light when we heard that they were euthanizing so many chickens. So it's kind of brought this issue to light. So no, not as of yet, but I would love to have a conversation with them and sit down with them.
Now, is this something you've done before? Have you worked with chickens yourself, or have you done any of these kind of like rallies or vigils before?
Definitely, yeah. We've had cow vigils. We've tried to raise awareness for cows in the dairy industry. A lot of abuse goes unchecked there, where you just think, well, the animal's not getting hurt. I'm just taking the milk. That's actually not what happens. There's a lot of animals that are killed. And again, it's just something that's just not really brought to our attention because it just happens behind closed doors. I've done things like that. I've done marches just to raise awareness, different things like that.
Okay. Something you're definitely very passionate about.
Yeah.
So how can people get a hold of you guys? How can they find information about what you're doing and possibly join you today?
So there's a couple of organizations you can get in touch with in Arizona. There's Direct Action Everywhere in Arizona. There's also Phoenix Animal Save. They both have Facebook and Instagram pages. We're all in contact on there on those same pages. And then there's also an Instagram called Arizona Liberationists, where we have a lot of our events posted there.
So once again, local animal rights activists, some grassroots organizations are going to be out there the 18th, 7 p.m., and that's going to be at the Hickman Farms.
Yep.
Okay, you guys. We'll be right back in a few. We are going to be chatting with some Instagram influencers who have a lot of knowledge about the food and the drink scene here
Always
in Arizona.
fun in
Always
Arizona.
fun. Yeah, it is. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
We
you so much.
appreciate it. We'll be right back, everyone. right, welcome back in, everyone. Fox 10 Talks. Girls who gab. Gabbing
It's all girls today.
Yeah, it's all girls today. Ty, my usual co-host, is on vacation, probably drinking some red wine and eating some rich food somewhere in Europe.
Nice.
Melissa Anaya.
Yes.
Welcome in. Eat, drink, AZ.
Yes. Thank you.
Amazing.
For having me.
We've been chatting with local influencers, and when I Googled that's how honestly how I found you. I just Googled top influencers in the Phoenix area, and your name popped up. That's amazing.
It's pretty good.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you.
That's a really big feat because you have a lot of people out there in the social media realm, in the social media world, who want to do what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's new, people coming into it all the time, more now than ever. There was kind of a few empty spots for a while where me and a couple of friends were like, is anyone else going to tap into this? It's been the same people so long.
What'd you do before you started influencing?
So I've had my business for a very long time. I've had it since 2015. So in Facebook and Instagram marketing.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So
So you understood social media.
Yes. Yeah.
So you did Facebook marketing for other people.
I did in the sports world back in the day.
Okay. And then you decided, I don't want to do it anymore?
Yeah, sports wasn't my thing. I ended up tapping into the restaurant world in 2017. And then from there, I was like, I actually only know hospitality. Why in the world am I not doing this in food and beverage?
You found your niche there, yeah.
I did.
So at that point, you decide to stop working for other people and you start working for yourself. I think it's risky because you don't know where your paycheck is coming from, and you're entering this world where you don't even know if you're going to get paid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's social media.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, you're your own salesperson out there. My mind's set up a little bit different. I have a great, salesperson with me that kind of helps send messages and get those in. But I mean, we do a lot of just going out and getting, restaurants. We're not charging everyone. We're going out just trying to get content to fill our page.
Exactly. And I would imagine that's how you start. You just kind of start posting like, I'm going to go check out this pizza because I want to check it out. I'm going to share my opinion. Is that pretty much how it snowballed from there?
It did. I actually hit it really hard in 2020 to, 2023 building the brand. I think I was going to up to probably 15 restaurants a week.
Oh my goodness.
No way.
Yes.
How long did that take you to do all that?
Like
how much time do you spend per video?
So it was a lot. I mean,
Okay.
I think that was my entire day, is going to restaurants and bars and breweries all over the state of Arizona. I mean, I wasn't even just the Valley. I went to Prescott. I went to Flag. I wanted to be everything and everywhere. Tucson.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. Before you establish like a name for yourself and had that many followers, were these restaurants pretty cooperative with letting you in, making food for you? 'Cause, we'll go in and do that stuff for TV, but I mean, I guess
it's different.
It
though.
is different.
It's very different.
It was. I think when my following was very small, it was a lot harder, and I didn't, you're building it, you're trying to understand. So, it was just sending a message and see what came back. There was a lot of my money I spent where I was like, I'm not even gonna bother these people. I'm gonna go out and spend my own money to do this.
How and why did you get into the hospitality? I mean, what's your history with that? I know you said that's what you know.
Yes.
Did you work in that industry?
So I did work, since I was 19. It's kind of really the only thing I ever knew how to do. Was, working as a bar manager and bartending and server. So food was very familiar to me, and I had never went to college. And so I was like, what in the world am I going to do? And this opened the door.
What was your first post? I guess we didn't make reels back in 2019.
I did because I understood Meta. I did videos. They were just not the dimensions you see today.
Right. So you would post just a couple different clips of videos edited together. Today you can get really fancy with everything.
Yeah, a lot of fun with it.
Oh, yeah.
What was the first? Ryan Welch is asking.
Oh, perfect.
How do I get my restaurant featured on your page?
Oh,
Ryan,
give another client there.
Give us some information. Tell us what your restaurant is all about, and then we'll see if that's something that would ever catch your eye. How do restaurants catch your eye? And then you go back and tell me what your first one was. Yeah.
I mean, I would say website. Through link in my bio, I have, forms that capture everything. Or it's a lot of just messages. They see a video go viral. So let's say it's a Mediterranean that went viral. I'll have 10 more DMs that come in
From
that are Mediterranean
restaurants, right?
So
right.
it's a funnel that just kind of keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely. But what was your first restaurant then, or first
Los
drink?
Taquitos.
Los Taquitos.
Los Taquitos.
Are they still around?
They are still around, and I still work with them.
Did they know you were coming, or did you choose it because you knew it was familiar, and you knew it was going to work for you?
They were opening a new restaurant in my neighborhood, and I walked in and met the owners, and that's kind of where this journey started. And they were the first people to ever work with me. And
That's a cool story.
From there, I hit the streets running in food and bev.
So is that video still posted on your Instagram?
Oh, yeah, you can find it. Oh, yeah, I have lots of Los Taquitos videos.
Oh, wow.
Now, when you started back then, did you ever think it would become what it is today?
Yes, but in a different way. I think there was always a bigger picture with it. I kind of see what I want. I don't know how else. I just want to get to that end goal. To now we have an office in Old Town Scottsdale, and salespeople, and I have a great assistant named Deanna that goes out and helps me capture the content. So it's a pretty big,
It's a whole brand.
It's a whole brand now.
How do you decide content? I know a lot of people. Well, Ethan D. Let's go back. Ethan D. says, "What's the best Mexican joint that you've been to?"
So one of my favorites, I've been going far before Los Taquitos, but is Espos in Chandler. It's a little old house. It's adorable. It's actually kind of hidden behind Chandler Fashion Square.
Oh, wow.
And that's been like my gem for years.
Kind of by the Costco out there?
West
of that. Okay.
Yes.
What do you buy? What do you order?
So I always get the green chili. I always get a crunchy beef taco and an enchilada. I get
best
all
recommendations
three.
here.
When you walk into a restaurant and you order, do you eat the whole meal, or are you taking little bites of everything?
Little bites. We have learned to take little bites.
But is that enough though to get an idea of how good something is, or how great
100%.
it is?
I know enough now. Yeah, I just have to take, and I can't eat it all. Like I can't do it anymore. Like it's so hard to finish. I'm not young anymore. I'm not one of the younger ones that are coming into the industry. The weight stays. It doesn't go off.
You're taking it all home and just kind of snacking on it.
Live your whole day with meals then if you're going to how many restaurants?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. Gosh, now I can't remember what I was going to ask you, but you're ordering the food. Oh, are you ordering things that you like, or are you just ordering a little bit of everything to get a true idea of the menu?
So when I go, I ask, is there anything you're really, famous for? Award winning. Let's see if they won any awards, and anything that's incredibly unique. And then I'll also get something that I truly, really like, and make sure it kind of matches, and usually they're probably together. Usually it's like, if it's going to be let's say a ribeye, it's probably award winning, but I'd order a ribeye. So sometimes they kind of all go together.
Got it.
Yeah.
We have Charles David saying Los Favoritos food is amazing.
Yeah,
too.
I love it.
Okay, and then Lil Philosophy says try El Ranchero restaurant on McDowell and 20th Street.
Haven't been.
And then Michelle is asking, do you only do restaurants?
So hotels and vacation homes as well.
Oh.
So I tap into, because they all offer food and bev. Like yesterday I featured a vacation home, and I went and picked up Strad Pizza to show that you can get amazing pizza right around the corner when I feature the vacation home. And hotels have food and bev, so that falls into everything.
Oh.
Festivals, wine dinners, so many different things.
Would you ever expand to do more than that?
Not really. I kind of stay within,
There's so
not
much
beauty.
already, right?
Like you probably won't ever see me rocking like a fashion outfit or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, I guess with especially Instagram and stuff and the algorithm, TikTok, you kind of is it true that you have to kind of keep to a certain niche to be able to really stay with that audience?
100%.
Okay.
I have tried to. I think someone had me come in and get like a facial done, and it bombed.
Really? Which is really interesting, because you have so many followers, and you would think,
they just don't want to see that.
We were chatting about that when you sat down. I said, it feels like it changes. There's all these ebbs and flows with Instagram, and we'll post something and it will take off, and you get all these comments and all these views, and you cannot figure out why. And then you'll post something similar the next week, and nobody cares.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Nobody cares. How do you figure it out?
I say it's like playing a slot machine. You pull it and
Yeah.
you hope for the best. There's ways to find out what really works, on your social media, but that takes a little bit longer of a conversation. But it really is finding your niche, like you said. And if you had a viral video, making sure you kind of repeat that one over. And maybe there was a hook that you missed on it. You thought it was the same, but there was a small hook that made it different.
Yeah.
Or a very specific piece of information that made it different.
What excites you most about doing this every single day?
I'm born and raised here in Arizona, and I really think it's all about helping the restaurants, small or large. I believe everyone has a chance to be seen. I'm not a food critic, and I say that all the time. I'm a storyteller, and I believe every restaurant has an opportunity to find the right customer. So all I'm doing is just finding a few pieces. If you live in the neighborhood, this might be a good fit for you. And another thing, not everyone are foodies, and they don't need to eat exquisite food. Some people are just looking for an affordable place around the corner. So I do everything, dive bars, upscale, doesn't matter what it is.
That's an
Something
excellent
for everyone.
point. Yeah, that's a really great point. I think we have a little bit of video of you. I'm going to guess it's this one. There we are.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing here.
So this was Lucky Boys. This was a famous burger joint that I found.
I like your hair like that.
Thank you.
I like
Yeah,
the
I
dark
just
hair.
went blonde. So, and I went and I reviewed it, and no one had ever done car reviews. So I'm always trying to think outside of the box. So I had my videographer follow me, and every time I'm in a drive-through, it just pops off. So we did this drive-through series. You're talking about how to go viral. We ended up doing 3 more Pete's Fish and Chips. They all went viral.
Yeah. So in this instance like this, they knew you were coming because
No.
they didn't.
No.
So how are you filming from the inside? It looked like.
So this one wasn't we just rolled up. None of these drive-through people ever knew we were coming at all. He's legitimately shocked.
Did he know who you were after the fact? Did you
No,
explain you were,
probably after it went viral.
Okay,
no, not until it was posted.
Okay, so I'm looking at this shot that's coming up where it looks like he's coming in from the kitchen because you see.
Oh, he asked at that point, can he go in?
Okay, so this is after.
After.
they realize who you are and
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yes.
And how are the burgers?
They were great. I mean, they've been around for, I can't remember now, 40, 50, 60 years.
And this is just a place you rolled up on.
Yes, I had searched it and did my research
Uh-huh.
first. We didn't even let them know we were coming. We just rolled right
That's
in.
the fun part.
That's
the fun part
Real
because they
fun.
can't prepare. They have to be on their toes.
And sometimes being prepared, they make everything perfect. Sometimes
Yeah.
we don't want everything perfect.
No.
Just like it normally would be if anyone were to
Anyone
show up.
else.
Yeah.
All right, we're wrapping up 30 seconds. How do people find you? How do they follow you? And maybe get you over for a review.
Yeah, so just send me a message. You can find me on Eat Drink AZ on every single social media platform you can think of.
Awesome. Amazing. You're
Yeah.
so
So
much
make sure to
fun.
follow. I might already follow you. I have to go back and double
Yay,
check.
I
So
appreciate
yeah.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, go